Hey Dom, how
Hey
are you?
Mike, what's up?
Not too bad. I'm just chilling today. So how about
Have you
yourself?
gotten have you gotten flooded out yet?
Believe me, we were really getting inundated with rain, and that finally stopped. Then we got a snowstorm, and today was just clear and really cold. So,
Oh my God, we are iced in.
wow,
We
wow,
thought we were going to get a reprieve today, and it's going to
no,
be another round.
yeah, that's not good. So you got
But
more coming tonight or tomorrow or
yeah, yeah, we've got another ice storm warning
wow,
tonight.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's not good. Uh,
But perfect time to stay in and watch movies.
That's true. That's true. And we do love our movies. Um, and I have to ask you, since I was the nut that picked Straight Jacket, which is our movie of this week,
Hmm.
um, you want to tell me what you thought because you said you had not seen.
So first of all, for those following along at home,
Yeah,
who have not seen the movie, this is a movie in which the main character, Joan Crawford, comes home unexpectedly to find her husband in bed with another woman.
and the husband is Lee Majors, by the way, first
Yeah.
movie role. But go ahead.
And I gotta say, Wikipedia puts it best, quote unquote. Lucy Harbin has a solution for adultery and acts.
Well, you have to admit it is a solution.
It worked.
It did work.
Unfortunately, it sent her to an asylum for the criminally insane for 20 years.
Yeah, which is a long time.
It's a long
But
time.
then again, it was two people with an axe, and she did dismember all both of them.
Oh, come on. It's a first offense.
Really, I mean, lighten up.
So she gets released and returns to be reunited with her daughter,
Who's
who
now grown?
witnessed
Yeah.
the murder when she was 3. She's now 23 and was raised by her aunt and uncle.
Right, right. And there's
And
the
so,
daughter. And
you know what? I tried to find out who this girl was, and I
uh,
couldn't.
yeah, it's I'm trying to think. I actually have. See if that one. Nope, that's not the one with her on it. But yeah, no, she's a known actress. Um, I'm drawing a blank.
I know the older daughter,
Yeah,
Diane
it's
Baker,
Diane Baker. Yeah,
but
uh,
I don't know who that girl was.
yeah. Well, she was played by Diane Baker,
Well,
but
not when she was that old.
what's
That
that?
young girl, that 3-year-old
Oh,
girl,
the young girl. No,
I would
I,
love to know. She did a great job. She was
she
in one
did,
scene.
she did. And the other thing is, I mean, I felt so bad for that kid. It like I remember as a kid, I remember just like the idea of seeing the movie. Um, I just remember like it's like you really feel for her in the sense that wow she just but there's so many the last movie that I had picked, Paper Moon, you were talking about the kid and what the kid was subjected to and everything, and with running around with Ryan O'Neal and doing the con games, but how much more horrific is this? Because first of all, I mean, her mom, I don't know where her mom was really. She took off and she was gone for a couple of days.
Thought she was away on business. I have no idea what that business would
What
be.
business? I mean, the way she dressed, the bangly bracelets, she really looked like a bar pickup or something. And
She might have at the time. I gotta say, she was dressed really conservatively for these days. So,
well, yeah, but back then, I'm telling you, like that was her attire was considered like a real cheap kind of, it's something you wouldn't see like which is why like later on I'm getting off here but off track but why later on with the daughter's boyfriend's parents, they are like really kind of snobby, especially the
oh
mother,
yeah,
and turn their nose up at everybody, and the attire is terrible for what that's like a country club crowd. They go to the country club. They only, back then there was this crowd that was like an exclusive crowd, and they were running in that crowd, and Joan Crawford's character would not have been welcome. But yeah, just getting back to the,
So to finish up the summary,
yes,
she comes back, she's released, she comes back to be reunited with her daughter, and she's staying with the daughter and the aunt and uncle.
right,
And surprise, surprise, the murders start up again.
right.
The almost the exact same type,
Oh
beheading
yeah,
with an axe.
yeah. Well, and the thing of it is, there's so many things here because, well, first of all, just to get back to the murder part, because I did want to say one thing about that. Like, first of all, Lee Majors, first role, but he comes home. Now the kid's staying at the house alone and fairly young. I would say what, 9, 10? What do you think?
I think younger than that. I think too young to have been left alone at home.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was a different time. And I do remember as a kid, because I'm old, I do remember as a kid at different times where I was like probably more like around 9 or 10, where, you know, parents would go away for the day and but not real far or something like that. But I mean, the mother's gone obviously for a couple of days, and Lee Majors, the husband, goes to a bar. And I mean, okay, dad, you leave your kid at home while you're drinking at a bar and picking up some chick in a bar,
Yeah.
taking her back to the place, and they don't even close the bedroom door. This is what I was talking about with the thing with this is way worse than Ryan O'Neal and Tatum O'Neal.
No argument. That wasn't good, but
It
like
was not
again,
good.
father of the year here.
No, he takes the woman in the bedroom, throws her on the bed, and they're making out on the bed. The door's open. So the kid had to have witnessed all of that. They never closed the door.
That was probably one of the more horrifying aspects of the
Yeah.
film.
And you can see the kids' faces. but and then of course the mother comes in, grabs an axe and takes care of business. So yeah, pick it up 20 years later. And but yeah, the murders start, and the daughter is dressing the mother like she dressed. Now, let me ask you before we go too much further, what did you think of this movie? Because you said you hadn't seen it before, and what did you think of it?
Okay. I thought the movie was bad,
Yeah,
frankly, with an amazing performance by Joan Crawford.
yeah, but well, I mean, uh, Joan Crawford, for I can be very critical of her about various things, but she can put out an amazing performance. And
I had no doubt that she was insane.
yeah, oh no, you definitely didn't doubt that at all. um, However, what we have here is a bad, or I say a good bad B movie. It's this is a personal favorite of mine from a time I was a kid. I mean, I've told a number of people this. When I was younger, this was the one where my family, and back then no cable, nothing like that. It was just 3 channels, plus UHF. But you would see in the TV guide, because you always check the TV guide. Yeah, you had to have a TV
That's a
guide.
blast from the past right there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And if you didn't have the regular TV guide, you had to have the one from the Sunday paper, the insert. So but you had to have your guide, and you would go through there and you'd mark days, like what movies and what, because there wasn't as much stuff to choose from. So you had to kind of plan.
Yeah,
And
so I got to ask you. You happened to mention when you told me this was your choice
yeah,
for movie for
yeah,
the week. You happened to mention that this was almost a family ritual
yeah,
when it
yeah.
came on.
Well, horror movies. Let's put it this way: horror movies were our family was definitely a little bit twisted. Um, I mean, right to my mom just being she liked horror. And of course Anna, Pat, your mom, they all loved they loved horror. And so when there would be a horror movie on, I don't care whether it was something like the Whatever Happened to Baby Jane or Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, this one, The Bad Seed, all these different movies that were like iconic horror movies, classic bad horror movies. We would, if we saw that one of them was coming on the weekend, it would be break out a pan of brownies, cook some brownies, pop popcorn. That it would just be an event. And again, you had to schedule your time around it because it wasn't like you had a DVD or a
There was
Blu-ray
no
or
TiVo.
no, nothing like that. You couldn't, no streaming, whatever. You were on their time. But I'm telling you, it was so much fun. And so this is one of them. And I probably saw this, I don't know how many times, 3, 4, 5 times as a kid. Every time it came on, Dom, this was like, oh yes. So I'm sorry, you
So,
were
so
gonna,
in defense of this movie,
yeah,
in defense of this movie, I've mentioned this before. I feel that this movie suffers, for me anyway, what I term the Raymond Chandler effect.
okay. What you
Mainly
mean?
because a few years ago, I read The Big Sleep by
Okay,
Raymond
yep,
Chandler,
yep,
classic noir
yep,
mystery.
yep,
And it was so boring to me
right,
because it was such a good story. It had been retold hundreds of times.
right, right,
And
right.
so, like, this movie was probably great when it first came out.
Oh yeah,
But by the time I saw it, like just a few days ago, I had seen so many copies.
right. Oh
And
yeah,
it
there's
didn't help. It didn't
it's
help that Robert Bloch wrote it.
right. Well, first of all, when you're dealing with um, earlier movies that have this a plot that is often used even today, um, and the thing you have to take into effect or into mind is that um, this movie at the time was much more innovative. And so I
Oh,
will
right.
give full credit when I know it's an earlier one. And I'll think, yeah, this is the one that helped to start this kind of tradition. So you have to give it a little more credit for that. This was considered a lower budget movie, obviously, with a cast that actually, it's not a bad cast.
No,
Um, I mean, even certain background players were actually known characters, including George Kennedy.
George
But
Kennedy.
yeah, and what's funny too is a lot of these kinds of movies, like The Bad Seed, um, they had the caretaker that was the nut, and this one had what the name Leo, George Kennedy.
I
Yeah, that he was also the nut and really crazy. Um, the one in The Bad Seed, the caretaker in The Bad Seed, was nowhere near as bad as Leo. Leo is really crazy, but but yeah. So as far as this one, first of all, William Castle movie, and we can't go without saying William Castle
Oh my
because
God. He was like, I had never heard the name
yeah,
and I started looking into him. What a character.
oh yeah, Dom, he was so known. He was so known. There he is. He was so known for his gimmicks, and he was like Mr. Gimmick, the Greatest Showman. Um, I mean, any one time he put out one of his movies, there was always some kind of crazy thing surrounding it. Skeletons flying through the air, seats, The Tingler, the movie The Tingler,
Yep.
your seat would buzz. And Alicia was just telling me down in Austin, where she lives, they had a showing of The Tingler, and they had set up seat buzzers. So and he actually, William Castle actually had it set up so outside of the theaters where the Tingler was being shown, there was a locked box, and it had like a chain around it, and there was supposed to be a tingler in it. And so the idea was, well, the tingler might escape. It might be in the theater with you. So he would do all these crazy things like that.
Well, this guy was the master of gimmicks. He
Yeah.
For his movie Macabre,
Yeah.
he gave every audience member a certificate that said he had taken out a $1,000 life insurance
Yep.
policy.
Oh yeah. Fright insurance.
Right, right.
Yes.
Just in case they were scared to death during the movie.
Yes. And yeah, and there was freight breaks that where you would there was all kinds of things. So he he inspired a lot of other filmmakers. Um that there are tons of filmmakers that came later, and they all had like, wow, like, let's do something like William Castle did, and they would do that as part of their, I mean, John Waters would he did it with what was the movie? It was the Scratch and Sniff.
Oh, the odor vision or aroma vision or something like that.
No, no, it was actually he actually passed out here. This is it right here. It's Tab
That's
Hunter
polyester.
and Tab Hunter and Divine.
Yep.
And there were scratch and sniff cards. And this and the I can tell you right now, this scratch and sniff card, what it was supposed to smell like, wasn't something good.
Oh
But
no, I saw that and I was like, I cannot imagine being at the theater for that.
oh yeah,
Cannot imagine.
yeah, no, believe me, it's but yes, we owe a lot to William Castle, and
Mhm.
this you actually can't even see. I don't know if you noticed that. Did you
Yep.
notice that when,
Oh yeah. Oh
because
yeah. I
I
saw
mean,
that.
the Columbia head is cut off and it's placed at her feet. So that was another thing in this one that they did. But yeah, like I said, I'm not saying that the it's not a um, it's a little bit more low budget, but it actually did it brought you some scares, and
Mhm.
it definitely brought you some scares, and for that alone, like I said, there's moments in this that I still today, I just rewatched it, and when I was rewatching it, I was like, yeah, there's you actually still feel a little bit of that unease. It's a freaky movie.
One of the things that hurt it for me again
Yeah,
was seeing that Robert Bloch had written it. I just know Psycho so well,
right.
and I'm like, oh, it's going to be a misdirect.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. Do you know that um, this movie actually is what gave Alfred Hitchcock the courage to put out Psycho?
Yeah,
So
yeah, he
that,
was definitely influenced by Castle.
yeah, so that in itself, and they actually, I wouldn't call it a rivalry because it was very friendly, but and William Castle actually, he made like, there was one picture that's taken, and it's Alfred Hitchcock's head. I don't know if it's a cake or what it is, but they used to do like little funny jokes around each other, but they definitely inspired each other, and we owe some of Hitchcock's films probably to William Castle.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
sure. I'm sure.
and by the way, that car behind, that's what they drive up in. That's Bill, Joan Crawford's brother in the movie, um, played by the guy who was Frank Cannon in High Chaparral.
Mm.
Um, he I don't know if it's, yeah, Leif Erikson. Um, he's Bill Cutler, and he's the one driving that car. That is a Ford Country Squire, and I think it's a 1963 Ford Country Squire. But those are like those are the classic station wagon that everybody drove around in when you were my age. Your father probably owned a Ford Country Squire or the equivalent thereof. Big rambling things with powerful motors. And even though a guy was a family man and could no longer drive a sports car because he had a bunch of kids in the car. He had this giant V8 engine in the car, and it would go way faster than probably, most things on the road at
Mike,
least.
growing up, all the cars I remember from our family were
Yeah.
huge.
Oh yeah.
They
Oh
were these
yeah.
land yachts.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that's definitely, and they look at that car. I mean, it's, for a station wagon, look at the lines on that thing.
Yeah,
It's
it's
cool.
not the Fiat 600 that her daughter was driving.
No, and yeah, let's talk about that because actually, um, that car, that wasn't, not everybody was driving that car back then. So that in itself was kind of cool. That was
I know,
showing,
I was like, wow, this is kind of fancy.
yeah. Oh yeah. Um, but there's, yeah, it's actually that was a cool car, and it's probably something of a rarity nowadays. And something else that we need to talk about. Not that
Yep.
we're doing ads, but Joan Crawford was certainly doing ads. That that placement of Pepsi, um, she had it in her contract that movies that she was in, Pepsi products would be shown.
Yeah.
And she had just lost her husband before this movie was made. And speaking of that, Diane Baker was talking about that she said she saw that Joan Crawford was very vulnerable during this movie because she had just lost her husband, and she said there were a few times where she looked like she was going to break down, but Joan Crawford was still sitting on the board of Pepsi at the
Well,
time.
you're not saying the most important thing about her husband. He was the president of Pepsi Cola Company,
Yes. Oh yeah.
which
Yes.
is why she was all in on Pepsi.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is the doctor, the psychiatrist, was not an actor.
Nope.
Yeah, the doctor was actually um, one of the CEOs
He
at
was,
Pepsi.
I had to look this up. He was Mitchell Cox, the vice president of public relations.
Okay, okay, yeah. And you know something, he actually did a good job.
I heard a few interviews with Diane Baker and a few of the other actors.
Yeah,
They could not stand him.
really,
They
really.
were well, they were basically like he couldn't remember his lines. He kept,
Yeah, yeah.
missing cues. So he just wasn't an actor.
No, no. I mean, probably. I mean, the guy was never in film before, and I'm sure a veteran actor on a set, they're going to be able to find their marks. They're going to know what's going on. They're going to know their lines. Hopefully,
Well, to Joan Crawford was such a perfectionist.
right, right, yeah, and you would think sometimes that she was probably ready to kill him, as it were. But now that's, like I said, I love the way this movie is done with the way they show things. I mean, this shot right here, the carving of the roast beef. It's a rare roast beef with a pretty big knife, pretty big
Mhm.
carving knife, and you see Joan Crawford and the daughter. That's another funny thing is the daughter, after she brings her home, the daughter keeps mentioning things like when she's taking her around the farm, and she goes, yeah, this is the chicken coop, and this is where we slaughter the chickens. And she keeps, every time she says slaughter, which she says more than once. um
Oh, she loves it.
oh yeah.
Like
So,
it was all. I'm like, you're almost getting off on this.
oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. And of course, we do realize later that she absolutely was getting off on it. There's the doctor, by the way. The unknown, or
The
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 not
shorter one
yeah,
on
the
my right.
non-actor. And this guy, the taller man is Leif Erikson. He was in High Chaparral, which is a TV series that I certainly grew up watching back in the early 70s. I loved High Chaparral. Can't find it hardly anywhere anymore, but that's a terrific Western. But
Okay. So one scene
yeah,
specifically I need to talk about
sure.
because, again, when I knew this was the author of Psycho,
Yeah,
I knew it was going to be a misdirect. I knew, again, sorry, spoiler alert.
yeah,
I knew Joan Crawford was going to be made to look like the murderer,
yeah,
and then there would be a bait and switch.
right.
However, that being said, wow, did she act unhinged?
Oh yeah.
And what was up with her coming on to her daughter's
Well,
fiance?
that's one of the see one of the with a movie like this, it's a you have to understand what you're watching as a bad movie as well as a fun movie as well as a movie that can give you scares. But my God, yeah, one of the most awkward scenes is when she brings the boyfriend home to she brings the boyfriend home to and of course she's setting her mom up too because her mom is extremely fragile. She's been institutionalized for 20 years. She brings her home, she sticks her in that damn dress, which was this gaudy dress with gaudy bracelets on, gaudy earrings, and then she makes her wear that wig that she the way her hair was because her hair is gray
I
now.
mean, I mean, this woman's been institutionalized for a double homicide for 20
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
And the first gifts her daughter gives her are basically the exact outfit
Oh
from
yeah.
when she committed the murder. She doesn't think something's up.
She holds up the bracelet and dangles them when the mother's not even looking. The mother like turns around like, what was that? And then she's like, remember these? And she buys her identical bracelets to wear. And so yeah, she completely is setting her up. Plus, I mean, she just got out of a mental hospital. I'm not sure the medication she's probably on would allow her to drink the way she's drinking because she starts pouring. She's nervous, and the daughter's encouraging her to have a drink. She starts pouring drinks like you wouldn't believe.
I don't even think it would allow her to be awake for more than 4 hours at a time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know what the medications would be, but they would probably be pretty strong. And so so yeah, by the time the boyfriend comes in, she's a little snockered, and supposedly she's still awkward, nervous, and she proceeds, as you said, to come on to the boyfriend in a really strong way. It's
Oh my
actually
God, she was almost dry humping him. I
yes,
mean, good Lord.
yes,
She's been out of society
yeah,
for decades, and instantly she morphs into the seductress.
right, right,
I'm
and
like, okay, what's going on here?
well, and the daughter of all people for the daughter to be dating, the daughter happens to be dating. First of all, they make it very clearly known that the daughter's boyfriend's parents are like the one of the richest, people in the families in the area, and they're look like they're pretty rich, and they're stuffy as hell. He's stuffy. The boyfriend is he's trying to be loving to her and everything, but you can tell like when he first meets the mother, just I mean everything about the way he behaves and acts. I could be much more subtle if I even if I saw something and I thought, wow, this
I
woman's
don't
something
know.
else.
Were I in that situation, I would be supremely uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, and I like I don't actually think she told him that the mother had actually been in a she'd been away and she'd been sick, but I don't think she told him she'd been in an institution until after some of the first bad mistakes that the mother made. And then he's like, well, it's okay, we can work through this. So, and the parents don't even know, his parents don't even know that they're planning on getting married. So there's so many awkward elements. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Now, I gotta say, I'm very curious as to what the original ending was going to be.
Why did you was
Because again, I do research.
yeah,
One thing I discovered was that um, Joan Crawford was heavily involved in rewrites to the script,
I'll bet. Yeah.
and she rewrote the ending.
Oh, really?
And furthermore, I saw a later interview with Diane Baker who claimed that Joan Crawford saw the ending or read the ending and basically said, "Oh, there's no way they're going to leave me out of that."
Oh, okay.
So I'm very curious what the actual ending, what the
Wow.
original ending had been.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is kind of it is, and with movies from this era, a lot of times they felt the need, and Psycho actually copies the way this wraps up in
Mhm.
the end, because they do this little scene where it's an explanation of, well, this is what was really going on, and they do that in this because of course, spoiler alert again, what we're talking about here, if you haven't seen this, maybe pause it and go watch the movie if you plan on watching it. It's a fun movie to watch. I'm not saying it's not on par with Gone with the Wind in the sense of fine film, but it's a fun movie. You might have more fun than Gone with the Wind.
Oh,
Watching
you'll
this.
definitely have more fun than Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, yeah,
I couldn't deal
seriously.
with Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, well, we can get into that another time because sometime we ought to actually do Gone with the Wind.
You're
But,
right. You're right.
because it probably would be fun to just tear that one apart. But no, they after when the murders happen, and of course the spoiler is daughter is the crazy. She's actually the murderess. Since the mother got out, she's the one that's coming up behind everybody with the axe. And she's what really got me about this too is that it was not just that she was coming up behind everybody with an axe and she was actually framing her mother,
Mm-hmm.
and she had such a hatred for her mother that and she was it was I guess it was a dual. Obviously she was crazy, but
Mm-hmm.
she had badly been affected or been affected badly by seeing the probably first the father banging that chick, and second the murders happened shortly thereafter, and so she actually sets out to eliminate the parents who she must have sensed would never accept her, even had she not had a mother that was institutionalized for 20 years. But she decides she's going to kill the parents and frame her for it. And she's racking up the body count like you wouldn't believe.
It
And
was a higher body count than I expected. I got
it
to
was,
admit.
yeah, it was. I mean, the doctor dies, the farmhand dies,
The
and
dad dies, right?
what's that?
The father-in-law.
Yeah, the father-in-law dies. Yeah, um, he's hacked to death in a closet. But it's yeah, like I said, that it's a pretty high, it's a pretty high body count, and like I like I said, um, they wrapped the whole thing up that, oh, she was framing, and then you were talking about the rewrite. I don't know if you remember, but there's actually that scene where he says, Leif Erikson says, "What? How did you get back to like? Why'd you go back to the house?" And she actually explains, "Well, I couldn't just leave without apologizing," and that's not that great of an explanation. That's the reason she came back and actually found her daughter in the middle of killing the parents. But so something tells me though that the boyfriend is not going to be that relationship was probably all done. I mean, he could
Well, I
probably,
don't know. A lot of counseling may have saved.
yeah, yeah. Uh, I mean, first of all, she was looking at 20 years herself, probably in an institution or more. As far as I was concerned, she was way worse than the murders that Joan Crawford
Yeah,
committed.
because it was like highly premeditated. There was an
Yeah,
elaborate plan.
yeah, it was completely planned out. and Joan Crawford, for better or worse, Joan Crawford's was a crime of passion. She saw what she saw when she looked in the window and just grabbed an axe and went nuts. But you could say, okay, well, that is a crime of temporary insanity or insanity, whatever. But I don't know. I've been pretty mad at different times at people. I've never thought to myself, I'm getting an axe,
I know.
you know, because you know,
It's an odd murder weapon.
it is, and it's funny because I've always heard the story that that like they talk about like that a lot of times like murder weapons that men will use as opposed to women,
Right.
and they say that like a lot of times um, a man is probably more apt to choose something like a gun,
Hmm.
whereas a woman will more often choose a knife. But a knife's hard to handle, and but it's certainly a personal. It's up close and personal, and
Yep.
which again, like I said, I think a lot of times when women commit a murder, a lot of times probably it's probably done more. A guy's probably driven them to the point that they can't take it anymore, and so yeah, it's probably a lot more personal. So yeah, I think of a, you know, half the time I think the women that are in jail are probably in jail because there was some asshole guy that they were dating or whatever that put them in that direction. But
So I'll tell you the worst, what I found to be the worst part of this movie
what's that?
is when I found out what genre it was in.
What I would say horror, but
Evidently, this is part of a genre called hagsploitation.
hags?
Hagsploitation or psychobiddy.
Really? Yeah,
Yeah, because this was and again I was listening to interviews.
yeah,
So as it was explained, this was an era in which these aging film stars,
yeah,
so
yeah,
Betty Davis, Joan Crawford,
yeah.
actors like that, that were past their prime
Right, right.
and had become less popular than what they
There
were,
were no parts for them.
but they still had name recognition, and
Yeah,
so they would gravitate towards these violent B movies,
yeah. Well,
and it's like black exploitation,
yeah, yeah,
but with older women.
yeah. Well, here's the thing, and I actually find it actually, I actually kind of, I hate those terms. I've never heard those terms. You just
I had never
those are
seen them either.
well, yeah. They're I mean those are like mean, cruel terms as far as I'm concerned. But I do remember reading about because Betty Davis and Joan Crawford teamed up for Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, which is a really
Yep.
fun movie. That's another one we should do sometime. But it's definitely a, and when they did that movie, um, I remember the critics hated that movie, and they really bitched it out, most of them anyway. And
Really?
yes, they did.
Huh.
And one of the things they were talking about is, oh, two old film stars that can't find roles, and they ruin their legacies by playing in this horrible movie with you know, with a terrible plot and these awful murders, and they went, you know, they basically were almost making fun of them. And then of course Joan Crawford, what did she win an Academy Award for I don't know if it was I think it was Best Supporting Actress in which Betty Davis connived to get herself in place so that she could present the award to her, which they had a terrible rivalry. But
I do know that movie, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, was sort of the inspiration for this movie, Straight
it
Jacket.
it was the inspiration for a lot. I mean, Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte is a real fun movie. I love that movie. Um, my friends Will and Erica in Ohio, that um, their young daughter Sadie at the time, she was only I think 5 at the time. I got her to see The Bad Seed. I'm a terrible Yeah, I'm a terrible influence on, but one of the things that I've always done in my life is, hey, and any of my relatives all know it. With my nieces and nephews, I've shown them all kinds of films, but certainly these bad horror B movies, and I was really happy because Sadie loved watching The Bad Seed, and I showed her Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte and all those different ones. I love exposing crowds that have never seen a movie like this to having the fun of watching something like this. And yes, they actually did prolong their careers or actually make their names popular again by being in these movies. And they were fun movies. And thank God they made them because, again, like I said, how much fun is this? Look at this scene
I,
here.
I, I gotta say, out of these movies we've been mentioning, I think Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte blows this out of the water and blows whatever happened to Baby Jane out of the water.
Well, yeah, I agree with
And
you. I
just
agree.
me.
I agree with you. I actually do like Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte better than all three. However, um, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane has some great scenes, and there's certain ones like the rat scene when Joan Crawford is served the rat on her plate for lunch,
Mhm.
and there's so many scenes like that, and then the crazy fan of Baby Jane, who was probably a pedophile, that comes to the house, that's her admirer, and she's actually doing her act in front of him. But there's so many like crazy crazy parts in Baby Jane, that make it, that make it fun to watch. And then this,
Baby Jane I thought it was great,
yep,
but it's it's a blunt instrument.
right,
Whereas Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, it it created this anxiety
yeah,
a lot more subtly that sort of had this staying power.
yeah, oh yeah. Well, there's nothing like an edged weapon or a pointed weapon to inspire fear in people. And these movies, I actually feel like these movies actually did a much better job. You watch a movie like Scream or modern, any of the ones,
Yeah,
Friday the 13th, Halloween, whatever, whether it's a knife or whatever instrument they're using. And a lot of times it's a pointed or an edged weapon. And this, I find these movies more frightening than I would watching, a lot of and not that I don't enjoy, because I do enjoy Halloween and Friday the 13th. I'll watch them for fun every once in a while. But like I said, there's nothing like watching these old ones. The black and white makes it somehow, and then the fun. I mean, look at this scene here. She wakes up in bed, and these like really bizarre mannequin heads. The woman on the on the side, she looks almost like she's smiling, and it's campy. It's fun camp, and that's a part of what these are.
yeah,
So,
I'm sure this was scandalous
oh
at the
yeah,
time,
yes.
but like again, I've seen decades worth of horror movies, and when I
Sure.
saw these heads, I was like, oh come on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, again, you have to put it in the time frame for what it was. But yeah,
All right.
it's I actually think the B movie part of it, the low budget, all of those things added to, I mean, this character. And the funny part about it too, that scene really cracked me up when the daughter realizes that he has found the doctor's car after the doctor is dead. And I mean, he was pretty much watching everything that was going on anyway. And he's out there and he's got a paintbrush and he's painting a brand new, or pretty much,
Yes.
it wasn't more than a year old if it wasn't brand new. He's painting the car white with a paintbrush, like he's whitewashing a fence. Who the hell does that? I mean, he could have got himself a paint sprayer he could have rented one, you know. I mean, come on. And he's like, "You like my new car?" And I seriously think if she hadn't have killed him, I seriously think he would have been blackmailing her for sex next, because
I
the
don't
way,
know. I mean, she was smart enough to plan this whole thing.
oh yeah,
She should have pinned the murder on him. He
yes,
would have been the perfect suspect.
yeah, he would have been much easier to pin the murder on. But she must have had so much bottled up hatred for her
Hmm.
mother, and in a lot of ways, I would think, maybe you ought to put some of that blame on Daddy, because had Daddy not come home with that chick from the bar and exposed her to something that she never should have seen there.
But also, she was an artist. I'm like, you should
Yeah,
have channeled that into your art, not
I,
made these little sculptures of deer.
yeah, she was making all these like nice, pretty things, and and the whole thing with the with her art. I mean, my God, she could have had some cool outsider art, some twisted,
Oh,
some
right.
really, I mean, why not? But
It was the 50s, mid 60s.
oh yeah, yeah. Well, I was gonna say that's another thing, and I was actually looking to see if I had a scene of the sculpture, and I don't think I do have it, um, unfortunately. But this, the sculpture of Joan Crawford's head,
Yep.
that actually not a huge piece of trivia, but I don't know if you saw that, but that actually was a sculpture that Joan Crawford owned,
Hmm.
and it was presented to her on a previous movie, and so
Yeah.
she,
It was presented to her in 1941 on the
okay,
set of A Woman's Face
okay, yep,
and created by Yucca Salamunic.
okay, cool, cool.
I did have to look that up.
Yeah. Well, it's when you look at the the sculpture, the sculpture in itself looks it's a little strange, but it's also like it's like, wow, did they actually make this for the movie? So yeah, it actually does, it bears some questions, and that is you had it there, that it was, previous movie, and an early movie too, by the way.
I had to look that up because I was almost certain it was not created for that movie.
Yeah,
It looked like cast bronze.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
like, and I don't think the special effects could have faked that,
yeah,
maybe, but I'm like, they did not make a cast bronze bust
right,
just for this
yeah.
movie.
Well, and that's another thing. You made a really good point there with the art, because I mean, she should have had like really cool art. I mean, to be that traumatized, it's I don't like, why would you even be turning out stuff that's so like normal and natural, you
Well,
know?
when you do art, you're bringing up such deep parts of yourself
Yeah,
that how could she not have some of that come into her
yeah,
art?
yeah, yeah. I mean, that as an artist yourself,
Right.
it's it's pieces of you, I mean, that's why art is so personal and so strong of a thing with the artist. I mean, some artists will never sell their works because they become too, they too much of a part of them. It's like, no, I'm not letting that go. And by the way, behind us, there's the parents of the boyfriend, and look at the mother. She is the most rigid, stuffy. Now I have to give it to the father. Actually, was a lot kinder. You could tell
He was cool.
yeah, he had a little bit of stuffiness going on, but most of what he had going on was because she was running the show. And as soon as she would say, "Oh no, we're not doing that," he was like, "Yes, dear." I mean, there's that scene where the knock comes at the door, and I believe that was Joan Crawford, and she's like, "Answer the door." No, that wasn't Joan Crawford, but she's like, "Answer the door," and he's like, "Well, it's probably," and she's like, "Yeah, like, go get the door," and he's like, "Yes, dear." I mean, it was always her leading him around, you know.
Oh, she had resting disapproval face
Oh
right
yeah,
there. You can
yeah,
see it right there.
yeah. Well, and that and of course, why would a daughter who is trying to get in the good graces of her boyfriend's parents bring her mother dressed like that? The mother had some nice dresses. You see some scenes where Joan Crawford is dressed more demurely and some nice dresses and the flattering dresses. There was nothing flattering about that dress. It was designed to, you know, it's like, wow, who the hell is this? You know, at the very least, wear it to something that was a lot more like a fun party. But to meet parents, you wouldn't dress like that. You know, it's
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, there's a, I don't know if any of you have seen it before, but there's a comedy series, online YouTube comedy series called Pitch Meeting that I
oh,
love.
okay. You know, I haven't
But
seen that.
one of the lines, and basically the guy describes a movie and points out certain ridiculous plot holes.
Right.
And one of the phrases he often uses is he'll say something like absurd that doesn't really make sense in the plot at all. And the producer he's talking to will say, well, why is this going on? And the answer is always, so the movie can happen.
Wow. Okay. Yep.
So
Hey, uh, that's not a bad answer actually. But no, it's yeah, and that's a part sometimes of when a it, sometimes people will look at a plot hole or a or something that's happening in a movie and they'll be like, well, why did that? And it's like because they needed it to happen because they need the scene to happen. They need
mhm.
this they need this part to be in there. But yeah, um, she did, and as far as you know, as far as like the daughter framing the mother, which is a huge part of what we later find out. But that's a like a bizarre, mind blowing thing because it wasn't just that the daughter was crazy. It was so there was so much more to it that in itself is like, oh my god, you know, she's not she's framing her and she's crazy killing people. So,
Mhm.
so I mean, yeah, she had
It's a
quite the
bad combination.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. That and an axe. You throw all those things in there. It's not going to be good.
That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Well, that was another thing with Leo, the farmhand. Do you notice how many times that guy was walking around with an axe in his hand? Because I remember as a kid, I remember thinking to myself, it's him. He's doing it because he had an axe in almost every scene. How many chickens do you slaughter in a day? I mean,
Well, he had to chop wood.
yeah, well, I guess, yeah. He was certainly chopping something, but he loved chopping the heads off chickens, that's for sure. So yeah, uh, like I said, it's a it's a you know a fun movie for me. I I can't I can't say enough as far as like you know how much I enjoy tuning in to see this every once in a while. I got to go back and revisit it. So I felt I felt almost a duty to present this movie.
It has a
Uh,
real place in movie history.
it does, it does, and again, anybody that hasn't seen the movie or hadn't seen the movie, I would hope this actually inspires people to watch the movie, and hopefully they actually like watched it before they saw us, you know, giving spoiler alerts all over the place. But but yeah,
I should say anyone that does want to watch the movie, it it's streaming for free on Tubi,
okay, yep,
which is a great platform.
yeah, yeah. You know, that's something we're not doing endorsements for this, but if we could, um, we'll do endorsements for pretty much anybody.
We will,
But
but I gotta admit, I watch movies on Tubi like several times a week.
yeah, you know something. I do have to say this. Tubi actually, like I wasn't even that aware of it. Somebody there was one time I got talking to I think it was somebody at work, and they were telling me about a movie, and I said, "Yeah, where can I see that?" And they said, I think it's on Tubi, and that was like the first. That was a few years ago, but ever since then, now a lot of times if I'm looking for a movie or if I just want to, yeah, I will actually go in and I will. Sorry, Don.
No, no, no. I was just gonna say my light has gone out,
Yeah, I've been
so I'm
noticing.
not sure how much longer I'm gonna be on.
Okay, yeah, we can wrap this up. But I was gonna say, yeah, Tubi has a lot of content, so check it out. Yeah, Dom, I noticed you were having a lot of weird stuff. I
Yeah,
thought,
I'm not doing this for the horror effect.
yeah, I thought you were. I thought there was something going on there. I didn't know whether there was a killer in the house, and that was that's what's going on or what. But dun 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 dun.
I know, I know. I'm like,
So,
I wish I were doing this on purpose. It's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Actually, there was some cool effects, but we probably should wrap it up in case you do end up losing power,
Hmm.
because we've had a pretty good little broadcast there, and like I said, fun movie for me. I hope you enjoyed it, Dom. Because
I did. It was
again,
fun.
yeah, it's and that's with movies. A lot of it is about the fun, and this was certainly a fun one. So, Dom, it's going to be your pick next week,
My
and we,
choice next. I haven't
yeah,
decided yet.
good. Think it over, and you just let me know whenever. I'm out with a knee operation right now, so I've got time. I've got plenty of time to. I've been doing a lot of movie watching, but check out that Columbia thing again. The head of the, the head of the Columbia girl there's at the bottom of her head sitting at her feet. But anyway, please everybody, if you would, hopefully you enjoyed this one. Hopefully you've been enjoying all of them. But please like and subscribe if you would. And look at my head's pretty much dismembered right now. But I'm just kind of sitting propped up here. But anyway, yeah. So uh, join us again for the next one. Dom, it was great. I really enjoyed the hell out of this.
Fun
As
as
always,
always.
as always. There's nobody I like talking movies with as much as
We
I
both
mean,
love them.
yeah. So no, very fun, and like I said, we keep picking movies that I think are cool. So hopefully our audience thinks so also, because they're ones there's something we enjoyed seeing, and that's how we came to it. So Dom, I will catch you again next week,
Yep.
and yeah, well, I'm anxiously awaiting your next pick, but it was cool and it was fun. So
As
see,
always.
okay, take care, man.
See ya.